Welcome to the Blind Loyalty Challenge. I am Amanda Cromhote from Truth Loyalty and the Blind Loyalty Trust. We interview world leaders in loyalty blindly. The challenge is about creating loyalty insight spontaneously and about a lot of fun. Simultaneously, it is about raising the awareness of the Blind Loyalty Trust, and 100% of the proceeds from my book, Blind Loyalty, 101 Loyalty Concepts Radically Simplified, go towards the trust. We hope you enjoy the Blind Loyalty Challenge. I believe it's taken so long to welcome Gillis to the Blind Loyalty Challenge, and most of us know him as the founder and CEO of Sea Monster, and we're going to do lots more talking about gamification. But he is also the chair of Games for Change in Africa. And also, I have to mention this, not because I have to, because I want to, and it's very much linked to the Blind Loyalty Trust, which we know we're talking about a little bit today. But he is the founder of Relate Bracelets, through which, and he's got his bracelet on, through which we create the Blind Loyalty Bracelet for every loyalty professional in the world to be connected to the Blind Loyalty Trust. And Glenn is a contributor to my book, Blind Loyalty. Chapter 64 is around gamification, where we say, is it kids play or is it a serious strategy? So I think, Glenn, that's the longest introduction I've ever done to anyone on the Blind Loyalty Challenge, but very deservedly so. Welcome.
Thank you, Amanda. And yeah, after all of that, I can't wait to hear what I have to say. But honestly, I think what binds everything that I do together is this idea that, purpose is important in everything we do. And yes, I'm grateful to be able to serve on all of those roles.
No, it's incredible. And that's why I love our conversations. So the first question out of your three questions has nothing to do with me. So if you hate it, don't blame me. The gentleman who set it is Jonathan Clarkson in the US. And Jonathan's question is, what could feel like sci-fi today that in 3 to 5 years is just going to be the norm for us in our industry?
Wow. Thanks, Jonathan. A tough one. Um, less is my answer. I think at the moment we're on this huge drive to use AI to do more. And how that feels to me as a consumer is just more people screaming at me and making me
Mm.
offers and more AI slop. I'd love to see us sort of trading through this phase and actually getting back to a fundamental human insight, which is that actually, I don't mind if my data is being used for me to create something that is more bespoke, more intuitive about what I need. And so, in our crazy worlds, I would love to see us using this intelligence, this data, to actually serve me as a customer. And what that means is, when it's appropriate, giving me an offer or telling me something about the business. So sci-fi for me isn't about a hologram appearing on my desk, but it's about a fundamental human truth that I do need advice. I do need a nudge. I do need a reward. And if you can give that to me in a contextual way, in a way that is visual and engaging at the right time, you've got me for life.
I love that. I mean, my philosophy around loyalty is let's simplify it radically. I mean, it's the title of my book, so completely and utterly support that. My second question, so I'm going to take you right back into your comfort zone. So, chapter 64, as you know, gamification is the whole chapter which you were an enormous contributor to. What have you seen in your deep experience in gamification to be one of the most impressive behavioral changes that comes about because of gamification?
So thank you, and thank you again for the opportunity to contribute to the book. I think it is an incredible resource. Um, I don't really like the term gamification because I'm not always sure what people are talking about. I do much prefer using the term sort of human-centered design, and that's simple as the name suggests, and that is putting the human back at the center of whatever, in our context, marketing experience that could look like. I think that to answer the question specifically, it's in the area of financial services. We do a lot of work with banks and insurance companies, as I know you do, and the loyalty schemes we have are very advanced. But
Yeah.
are we really using the customer's data for them or are we using it against them? And we've seen example after example where making better customers is better for business. And it's so hard when there's so much product and price push, and I'm trying to flog you the next product and upsell you on this. And honestly, it's confusing. And sometimes out of desperation, people will make a decision. But is that truly the right decision for that customer at the right time? And
Mm.
so, where we see this ability to layer in educational content, bite
Mm.
size, give people a little something that they can engage with, to lock in a principle around wants versus needs, around future orientation, the fundamentals about what actually makes better customers, we actually see the business results that come from this. You know,
Amazing.
we talk about reacquiring our customers and about lifetime values. And sometimes that means don't sell them the thing that they think they need, but partner with them to make them into better
Yeah.
customers. Now, that
Yeah.
sounds like a noble goal, but we've seen, again, case studies emerge where it actually does drive the bottom line and it's good for the customer and good for business. So it's
Yeah.
the thing I'm most excited about. You know, let's make better customers.
And you know what, Glenn? I know one of the brands you're referring to, and I will name them because I name them in my book, Blind Loyalty. So I know you're behind an element of All Mutual Rewards' program, which is about
Absolutely.
moneyversity, like that education. And I think it's a phenomenal program that gives without the customer necessarily having to commit to more sales until the point in time that it makes sense, and then the customer decides. So
Yeah.
it's a fabulous program. And your reference about doing good, it reminds me of Raymond Ackerman's book, Four Legs of the Table, where he says doing good in business is good for business. So it will come back, it'll cycle back, just won't be maybe immediately on that campaign or on that particular cycle. So love it. Well, talking about,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
go.
just on that, you know, it does feel to me like the psychopaths have won capitalism, and you know, and so I think what I want to do, and I hope many of the people watching this do too, does believe that business can play a more positive role, again, without compromising the bottom line of financial returns. I think there is a way to hold the tension. And I think businesses who do that over the next couple of years are going to put themselves in a very strong position with their communities.
Yeah, I mean that must come across as well. And we don't have time today to go into it, but just referring back to
Mm,
your role as the chair of the Games for Change Africa,
mm.
you know, the fact that you can hear in the title of that what it's about. Okay, my last question though actually flips that completely on its head and does talk about the commercial return of the human-centered design. So, you know, if we don't even use the word gamification, in
Mm.
terms of delivering human-centered design activities or campaigns, how do you best measure return on investment?
I guess it depends on the problem that we set out to solve. Often, you know, the first answer is less waste. So there's a lot of money that is spent, particularly at the top of the funnel, that we think is incredibly wasteful. We feel that there's a big disconnect between what happens, you know, in the advertising, the social media spend, and the reality of the lived experience with a brand. And so, more intimately being able to tie that in, and obviously, loyalty is what's at the bottom of the funnel, guys. It's not complicated, you know, that's why
Yeah.
it's a funnel. Um, we're able to measure so much, you know, in games. We can get voluntary disclosure of information. We can incentivize how people do that. We can link what's happening online to offline and vice versa. We can close the attribution gap, which so many companies struggle with, not because we come up with a new fancy model, because we can directly attribute
Yeah.
this. So we feel that, you know, there are three main things that we do. One, we help significantly lower the cost of acquisition. And the reason is because if you've got a very high percentage of known customers, honor them and ideally reward them. So, you know, that's what we
Yeah,
will
yeah.
do. The second thing is once you've got somebody's attention, you should use that time well, not just to sell them the next product, but layer in something about your brand purpose around an educational element that will make them worthwhile, and then being able to measure ROI much more accurately. So I know that was partly the question, but I think so many measures that we have in ROI, that we have in this ROI conversation, are either vanity, are complicated, or are not actually there. And I think the power that we have as loyalty practitioners is to have much simpler models that talk about money in, money out, and to do that in a much
Yep.
more transparent way. And I think that's where our great power lies.
Stunning. Stunning, stunning. I knew I'd enjoy the conversation. And unfortunately, we don't have time today for much more, but I'm going to ask you two more things. Who do you think I can interview next? Who would you like me to interview on the Blind Loyalty Challenge?
There's a young man called Luke Judakin, who was the founder of Superbalist and now heads up Bash, which is the online business at TFG. Luke is one of those straight shooters. He asks the difficult questions. He thinks about things very simply and very clearly. So
Great.
I'm paying this forward and putting Luke Judakin on the spot.
Brilliant. Well, he's a very well-known individual, and I think I'd love a conversation with him, especially as TFG Rewards as a entity within TFG now works with the Bash team, so or
Spot
within
on.
the Bash team. And a
Exactly.
question that you would like to be answered?
Sure. I'm going to go back to the title of your book, and it's always an inspiration. You know, how do we simplify our reward schemes? You know, the data from the white paper which you published that shows that South Africans have 10.4 cards on average or loyalty scheme
Yeah.
membership. It's too complicated. I don't know what that actually means. So our holy grail, yours and mine and everyone else's, net new customers and net new sales. How do we measure those things, and how do we radically simplify the noise that's out there to truly assume our rightful role within the marketing mix?
Great. Okay. I hope I can ask Luke that. If it's not, there'll be other practitioners who will be able to ask it too. So, Glenn, I know we could carry on chatting forever because we've got that kind of friendship in the industry, but thank you so much for doing the Blind Loyalty Challenge.
Thank you. I had no idea what I was signing up for, but as usual, I'm all in. Thank you for
That's
the
what
opportunity.
that's what I knew from the start. You're all in, and that's why I knew it's going to be a goodie. Thank you.
Thank you.